My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm 29 years old, and for 25 years, my family called me the disappointment. While my brother Marcus collected Ivy League degrees and six-figure job offers, I struggled through community college with undiagnosed ADHD. While he moved into a penthouse in downtown Chicago, I shared a studio apartment with two roommates and worked 3 part-time jobs just to make rent. My parents made their feelings crystal clear at every family gathering, at every holiday dinner, at every milestone celebration that was never mine. But last month, on Marcus's 30th birthday, everything changed. A lawyer I'd never met walked into that celebration at the Four Seasons Hotel and handed me an envelope. Inside was a document that would expose 25 years of lies, manipulation, and a family secret so devastating it would tear the Rodriguez empire apart. What my parents didn't know? My grandmother had been watching everything. She saw every insult, every dismissal, every moment they treated me like I was worthless. And she left me something that would flip their entire world upside down. Let me give you some context about who the Rodriguez family is, because you need to understand what I was up against. The Rodriguez name means something in Chicago. My grandfather, Carlos Rodriguez, came to this country in 1968 with $47 in his pocket and a dream. He started a small construction company in Pilsen. Within 20 years, he'd built Rodriguez Development Corporation into one of the most successful real estate firms in the Midwest. By the time I was born, RDC was worth over $115 million. Properties across 3 states, commercial developments, luxury residential buildings, the kind of empire that gets featured in Forbes and Wall Street Journal. My grandmother, Sofia Rodriguez, was the real architect behind it all. While my grandfather was the face of the company, she handled the numbers, the negotiations, the strategy. She taught herself accounting, business law, contract negotiation, all while raising 4 children and managing a household. But here's what most people didn't know. She never put her name on anything. In the 1970s, banks wouldn't give women business loans without a male cosigner. Clients wouldn't take meetings with female executives. So she worked in the shadows, letting my grandfather take the credit while she built the foundation that would last for generations. She saw me, really saw me, in ways my parents never did. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 9 years old, but my parents treated it like a character flaw instead of a neurological condition. I remember sitting at the dinner table when I was 12 years old. We were at my parents' house in Lincoln Park, this massive Victorian mansion with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. The kind of house that appeared in Architectural Digest. 23 family members gathered around this enormous mahogany table. My father stood up with his wine glass and made an announcement. "I'm proud to share that Marcus has been accepted to Northwestern University with a full academic scholarship. Our son is going to be the first Rodriguez to attend an elite institution. He's going to make this family proud." Everyone applauded. My mother wiped away tears of joy. My aunts and uncles surrounded Marcus, congratulating him, telling him how brilliant he was, how he was going to change the world. Then my father looked down the table at me. "And Elena? Well, Elena is doing her best. We've hired tutors, specialists, behavioral therapists. We've tried everything. Some children just aren't built for academic success." The room went silent. A few relatives looked uncomfortable. My cousin Sophia, named after my grandmother, stared at her plate. But nobody defended me. Nobody said a single word. Except my grandmother. She was sitting across from me. She reached under the table and squeezed my hand. When I looked up at her, her eyes were blazing with something I didn't recognize then, but I understand now. It was rage. Pure, cold rage directed at her own son. She didn't say anything that night. But 3 weeks later, she called me to her apartment and told me something I'd never forget. Grandma Sophia lived in a beautiful apartment in the Gold Coast. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Walls covered with photographs from 60 years of building a business, raising a family, surviving and thriving in a country that didn't always welcome people like us. Every Sunday, I'd take the L train from my parents' house to visit her. While Marcus was playing tennis at the country club or attending enrichment programs, I was sitting in my grandmother's kitchen, learning things they didn't teach in school. That particular Sunday in 2012, she made me café con leche and sat me down at her kitchen table. Mija, she said, using the Spanish term of endearment she always used for me. I need to tell you something important, and I need you to remember it for the rest of your life. I was 12 years old. I didn't understand why she looked so serious. Your father, she continued, measures worth by degrees and bank accounts. Your mother measures worth by social status and appearances. But those measurements? They're meaningless. She leaned forward. Real worth is measured by how you treat people who can't do anything for you, by your compassion, your integrity, your ability to see beyond what society tells you matters. She pulled out a leather journal, old, worn, filled with decades of handwritten notes. This is my story, Elena. Every deal I negotiated, every contract I reviewed, every decision that built Rodriguez Development Corporation. Your grandfather gets the credit, but this, she tapped the journal, this is the truth. She handed it to me. Someday, when you're ready, you're going to need this. Keep it safe. Don't tell your father. Don't tell anyone. Just hold on to it until the time comes. I took the journal. I didn't understand what she meant by when the time comes, but I kept it safe, hidden in the back of my closet for the next 17 years. I graduated from community college in 2019. It took me 5 years instead of 2 because I was working full-time to pay tuition. I studied graphic design, something creative, something that played to my strengths rather than my weaknesses. Marcus graduated from Harvard Business School that same year. My parents threw him a celebration at the Peninsula Hotel. 400 guests, a live band, champagne fountains, press coverage in Chicago Tribune's society pages. When I graduated, my mom texted, "Congratulations, honey. Let us know when you find a real job." A real job. I was working 3 part-time positions, freelance graphic design, weekend shifts at a coffee shop, evening hours doing social media management for small businesses. I was pulling 60-hour weeks and barely making $30,000 a year, but none of it counted as real in my family's eyes. In 2021, Marcus joined Rodriguez Development Corporation as Chief Operating Officer. Starting salary, $350,000 plus bonuses. I applied for a position in their marketing department. Entry level, $42,000 a year. My father's response came through HR. "We don't think you're the right fit for the RDC culture. Perhaps you should explore opportunities elsewhere." My own father, rejecting my job application. To the company my grandmother built. I called Grandma Sophia that night, crying so hard I could barely speak. "Mija," she said, her voice steady and calm. "This isn't about you. This is about him. About his fear. About his need to control the narrative. But why does he hate me so much?" "He doesn't hate you, Mija. He doesn't see you. And that's worse. But I see you. I've always seen you. And when the time comes, everyone else will see you too." 6 months later, she passed away. Pancreatic cancer. She went from diagnosis to hospice in 8 weeks. I was with her at the end, holding her hand in that hospital room while machines beeped and nurses moved quietly through the hallways. Her last words to me were, "Remember what I told you, the journal, the truth. When they show you exactly who they are, you'll know what to do." Fast forward to last month, March 15th, 2025. Marcus's 30th birthday party at the Four Seasons Hotel. My parents had rented out the entire ballroom, 500 guests, orchestra, 7-course dinner prepared by a Michelin star chef, the works. I almost didn't go. I was working a Saturday shift at the coffee shop when the invitation arrived. Paper stock so thick it felt like cardboard. Gold embossed lettering. The Rodriguez family requests your presence. My roommate convinced me to go. Free food, Elena? And maybe it'll be different this time. It wasn't different. I arrived in a dress I'd bought at a thrift store for $35. Everyone else was wearing designer everything. The women dripped in diamonds. The men wore watches that cost more than my annual rent. My mother intercepted me at the entrance. "Elena, you came." She looked me up and down. "I wish you'd told me you needed help with your outfit. I could have sent you something more appropriate." Translation: You look poor and you're embarrassing us. She directed me to table 47, at the back of the ballroom, behind a decorative pillar, with relatives I'd met maybe twice in my entire life. From that table, I could barely see the stage where my father stood with a microphone, delivering a speech about Marcus's incredible achievements. My son, Marcus Rodriguez, graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Business School. He's increased RDC's portfolio value by 47% in just 3 years. Last month, he closed a $200 million deal that will transform the Chicago skyline. Applause, cheers, a standing ovation. Tonight, I'm announcing that Marcus will become CEO of Rodriguez Development Corporation, effective January 1st, 2026. He will also inherit my entire personal estate, including our family home, my investment portfolio, and my voting shares in the company. More applause. Marcus stood beside our father, looking humble and grateful in a way that I knew was completely calculated. "I built this company for my son," my father continued, "for the legacy bearer, for the one who has proven himself worthy of carrying the Rodriguez name forward." He didn't mention me once, not even in passing. And then something happened that would change everything. A man in a gray suit approached my table, late 50s, distinguished, carrying a leather briefcase. "Elena Rodriguez?" "That's me." "My name is David Chen. I'm a senior partner at Morrison Blackwell and Associates. I was your grandmother's attorney for the past 15 years. My heart started pounding. "I have something for you. Mrs. Rodriguez left explicit instructions about when and where to deliver this." He pulled out a manila envelope sealed with red wax. "She told me to wait for the day your father publicly declared Marcus as his sole heir." He placed the envelope in my hands. "I believe that day has arrived." I stared at the envelope, my grandmother's handwriting on the front, "Para mi Elena, when you need it most." My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside, a document, 37 pages, legal letterhead, notarized stamps. The last will and testament of Sofia Maria Rodriguez. I started reading. The letters jumped around, my ADHD making it hard to focus. But I forced myself to concentrate on every single word. And what I read made my blood run cold and my heart soar at the exact same time. "I, Sofia Maria Rodriguez, being of sound mind and body, do hereby revoke all previous testamentary documents and declare this to be my final will. To my grandson Marcus Rodriguez, I leave the sum of $10,000 and my best wishes for his future. To my son Gerald Rodriguez, I leave my collection of family photographs and the reminder that blood does not equal loyalty. To my granddaughter, Elena Rodriguez, I leave the following: 65% of my shares in Rodriguez Development Corporation, currently valued at approximately $74 million, along with full voting rights. The deed to my apartment at 1200 Lakeshore Drive. My personal journals detailing my role in building RDC from 1968 to 2020. And a letter explaining why she, and only she, deserves this inheritance. I read that paragraph 7 times. 65%. Controlling interest. My grandmother had made me the majority shareholder of the family company. I couldn't stay in that ballroom. I grabbed the envelope, found an empty conference room, and called David Chen. He answered on the first ring. "You've read it." Is this real? Is this legally binding? Completely. Your grandmother updated her will in 2019, 5 years before she passed. She had me verify every detail with 3 separate law firms. Your father has been operating under the assumption that he inherited her shares. He didn't. You did. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because your grandmother's instructions were very specific. I was to wait for the moment your father made his true feelings clear. She wanted you to see exactly who he was before you learned exactly who you are. I sat in that empty conference room for 20 minutes, reading the attached letter my grandmother had written. Let me share some of it with you. May out paper, read emotionally. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then your father has done exactly what I feared. He has chosen status over substance, achievement over character. He has chosen wrong. You are not a disappointment. You are not a failure. You are not less than your brother. You are different, and that difference is your greatest strength. I watched you struggle through school while your parents dismissed your efforts. I watched you work 3 jobs while Marcus was handed every opportunity. I watched you maintain your kindness, your compassion, your integrity, while being treated like you didn't matter. That's why you get the company, mija. Not because you're smarter than Marcus, not because you're more qualified, but because you understand something he never will. Real leadership means lifting people up, not standing on their backs to reach higher ground. Use this gift wisely, build something better, and never, ever let anyone make you feel small again. All my love, Abuela Sofia. I walked back into that ballroom with my grandmother's will in my hands. The party was still going, people laughing, drinking, celebrating Marcus and everything he represented. I walked straight to the microphone. Excuse me, my voice cut through the music. The orchestra stopped. 500 people turned to look at me. My father's face went from confusion to anger in 2 seconds flat. Elena, what are you doing? This isn't... I have an announcement to make. I held up the will. About Grandma Sophia's estate. The room went dead silent. My mother started moving toward me, but David Chen stepped forward from the crowd. I'm David Chen, attorney at Morrison, Blackwell & Associates. I represent the estate of Sofia Rodriguez. Miss Rodriguez has every right to address this gathering. My father's face went pale. What is this about? I looked at him, at my mother, at Marcus, who suddenly looked very nervous. This is about the truth you've been hiding for 5 years. I held up the document so everyone could see the legal seal. Grandma Sofia updated her will in 2019. She left 65% of her RDC shares to me. Not to Dad, not to Marcus, to me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. That means, as of right now, I'm the majority shareholder of Rodriguez Development Corporation. I have controlling interest. I have voting rights. I have decision-making authority. My father's face turned purple. That's impossible. My mother would never. Your mother absolutely would. David Chen's voice was ice. I have the original will right here, notarized and legally binding. Would you like me to read the relevant passages aloud? Marcus finally found his voice. This is insane. Elena can't run a company. She can barely hold down a job. You're right, Marcus. I can't run a company. Yet. But I can learn, and more importantly, I can hire people who know what they're doing and actually listen to them. Unlike you, who inherited a position you never earned and have been coasting on Grandma's work for 3 years. I turned back to the crowd. There's more. Grandma left me her personal journals, 60 years of documentation, every deal she negotiated, every contract she structured, every decision she made that built this company from a single office in Pilsen to a $115 million empire. I opened the leather journal, the one she'd given me 17 years ago. Grandma Sofia never got credit for her work because she was a woman in the 1970s and 80s. But she was the architect of everything we are today, and she trusted me, the so-called failure, to protect that legacy. The party imploded after that. Half the guests left within 20 minutes. My father tried to grab the will from my hands, but David Chen stepped between us with a reminder about assault charges. My mother pulled me aside in the hallway. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? You've humiliated your father in front of the entire Chicago business community. He humiliated me for 25 years. Maybe it's time he understands what that feels like." Marcus tried a different approach. He found me by the coat check, looking defeated and desperate. "Elena, come on. We can work this out. You don't actually want to be involved in the company. Let me keep running operations. You keep the shares. We'll split the profits. Everyone wins." I almost said yes, because that would have been easier. That would have avoided conflict, would have let me go back to my quiet life. But then I remembered my grandmother's words. "When they show you exactly who they are, you'll know what to do." No, Marcus, I'm not giving you control. I'm taking my seat at the table, and if you don't like it, you can resign. His face hardened. "You're going to regret this." "Maybe, but at least I'll regret it on my own terms." That was 6 weeks ago. Since then, I've attended my first board meeting. I've hired a business consultant to help me understand the company operations. I've started reviewing every contract, every deal, every decision using my grandmother's journals as a guide. And you know what I've discovered? My ADHD, the thing my parents treated like a disability, it makes me see patterns other people miss. I can look at a development proposal and immediately spot potential problems, inefficiencies, opportunities that the experts overlook. Last week, I identified a contract issue that would have cost RDC $17 million. The legal team had missed it entirely. But I saw it because I read differently, because I think differently. My father hasn't spoken to me since the party. My mother sends occasional texts asking when I'm going to come to my senses. Marcus is looking for positions at other companies. And me? I moved into my grandmother's apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. I wake up every morning in the same place where she taught me that my worth wasn't determined by other people's measurements. I'm not going to lie and say everything is perfect now. I'm still learning, still making mistakes, still dealing with family members who think I don't deserve this. But here's what I know for certain. My grandmother saw something in me that nobody else did. She saw strength where my parents saw weakness. She saw potential where they saw limitation. She saw worth where they saw worthlessness. And she gave me the tools to prove that their version of me was never the truth. If you're watching this and you've ever been told you're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, I want you to hear this. The people who are supposed to believe in us don't always see us clearly. Sometimes they're blinded by their own expectations, their own fears, their own need to control the narrative. But that doesn't make their version of you the truth. You get to decide who you are. You get to define your worth. You get to write your own story. My grandmother gave me an inheritance, yes, but the real gift wasn't the money or the company shares. It was the permission to see myself clearly, to stop waiting for my family's approval, to build a life on my own terms. And you don't need a secret will to claim that permission. You just need to give it to yourself. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt overlooked or underestimated, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Share your story. Let me know I'm not alone in this. And if you want more stories like this, stories about people who found their strength in unexpected places, make sure you subscribe to The Story Voice and hit that notification bell. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Until next time, remember, you are not who they say you are. You are who you choose to be.